Americans for Prosperity North Dakota proudly supported important policy improvements that broke barriers for all North Dakotans this legislative session. From tackling unnecessary and burdensome occupational licensing standards to fighting for tax relief, AFP is proud to have played a part in improving the lives of North Dakotans this year. Join AFP today by visiting www.afpnd.org. This advertisement was paid for by Americans for Prosperity. State Auditor Josh Gallion joins me now. Josh, just last week, you announced re-election that you're going to run for another 4-year term in your office. You were first elected in 2016. Now you are going to campaign again in 2020 for re-election. Why are you running for re-election? And I should add here, you and I had talked earlier this year, and you weren't certain about running for re-election. How did you arrive at this decision that you wanted another 4 years?
Well, it was a decision that I had to, work out with my wife. We had to make sure it was in the best interest of our family. In the end, we've made some positive strides here in the auditor's office to improve transparency and accountability of our government. And while we've made some great progress, there is still much left to be done. And I would love to continue serving the citizens of North Dakota.
When I had spoken to you previously, it was amid some controversy over a bill the legislature had passed related to your authorities as auditor. You were critical of that bill. There was a faction. I should note it was a bipartisan majority, Republicans and Democrats. In fact, every Democrat in the legislature who passed the bill signed into law by our Republican governor. There was a faction of Republicans in the state House who opposed the bill, but essentially what the bill said is that for performance audits, you weren't allowed to conduct them unless you got a sign-off from a legislative committee. There was a whole lot of dispute. I had a feeling that had something to do with your reticence at the time on whether or not you wanted to run for another 4-year term. I mean, how are you dealing with that at this point? What's the status of that situation?
Well, at this point right now, we're working off the Attorney General's opinion, which says that the law is likely unconstitutional until it's officially decided by the courts. And with that opinion, we are moving forward as we had before.
So you're
not seeking approval.
You're not seeking approval from the legislature?
No.
No. So you're conducting performance audits. You're not seeking approval from the legislature. That's obviously created some rancor among Republicans. Have you heard criticism from other Republicans? I mean, obviously you're going to be running. You're an incumbent Republican statewide office holder. You're going to be seeking, and I haven't heard when. In fact, everybody I talk to is nobody in the Republican Party is going to challenge you based on everybody I've spoken to now, including many of your critics. I don't see anybody challenging you for the nomination, but have you heard that blowback from other Republicans? Have they contacted you and said, hey, we don't like the way you're doing your job?
I haven't heard any of that directly, no.
How about indirectly?
Well, I think regardless of what you do, there's always going to be people out there and some critics. And for me, I'm just trying to focus on doing the right thing every day. And that's been my focus.
It was interesting to me when I was reading my employer's news article about your announcing re-election. What I thought was interesting about that is that they attempted to contact Governor Burgum for a comment on you running for re-election, and his office had no comment. I thought that was odd because we have a Republican governor who, normally there would be some sort of rote congratulations, good luck, you've done a great job, whatever. There was none of that from Governor Burgum. I know that previous in your term in office, previously you had undertaken an audit of Governor Burgum's travel in his office. I know that when the legislation that we were just talking about, as I mentioned, Governor Burgum signed that into law. There's some hard feelings between yourself and the governor?
I can't speak for the governor. I don't have any. I'm just trying to do the job that I've been elected to do to the best of my ability. And when issues arise, we're going to confront those and do what we must, and we're going to follow the standards, be objective and professional. That's the job, and that's what I am committed to doing.
Have you spoken to Governor Burgum?
You'd have to give me a time frame. I do sit on a board with him, and I do see him from time to time. We do speak.
Yeah, like in the last, I don't know, 3 months?
Oh, maybe once or twice.
Okay. Has it been cordial? I mean, have you guys had a good relationship? I mean, it's interesting to me to watch because, again, you're a statewide Republican office holder, and it sure seems like there's some hard feelings between you and a lot of the other Republican office holders in the state.
I definitely don't feel that. I don't see it. Every time I see the governor and many other statewide elected officials, we have very cordial and professional discussions.
Do you feel like just today, in fact, just before I came on air, your office dropped an audit of the procurement process around the state's new logo, and I guess it was a brand refresh. I think most people have seen it. It's the North Dakota Be Legendary, where Dakota is big and in red, and then the rest of it's kind of in black text. I'm sure most people have seen it. If you've gotten an official document from the state or an email or anything like that, it has replaced the North Dakota Legendary logo. So you've probably seen this on letters from the state or emails from the state or whatever. They're using it all over the place. Well, your office found that the Department of Commerce found some laws had been broken during that process, which frankly was something of a pet project for Governor Burgum. Tell us about it. Tell us about the audit's findings.
So you're referring to the first finding in the report, right, regarding the contract for the brand refresh. What the team found was that the original contract, which had some developing of the NorthDakota.gov website, some of the responsibilities overlapped with the temporary employment contracts that were given to two of the employees at the company who received the original $9,500 contract. Again, these were temporary employee agreements, yet they were still treated like contractors. Some of these things overlapped, and when you total up the amount paid, it was a little more than $87,000, and under procurement requirements, that would have been required to be bid out for a competitive procurement. By doing the initial contract at $9,500, they were allowed to direct negotiate and select the contractor. And so what the team found is when you look at all of it in total, it does have the appearance of circumventing the procurement requirements.
Now, was that you're talking about the original $9,500? I'm reading here an article by Patrick Springer from earlier this year, and it was concerning. I know Representative Marvin Nelson, he's a Democrat from Rolla, was concerned about the process that went into the logo. He introduced a bill to maybe try to go back to the old logo or hold a contest to come up with a new logo. But are you referring to, in that article, Patrick Springer talks about a woman from a firm in Holly, Minnesota, who was, her name's Kara Ellefson. She was a longtime marketing executive at Great Plains Software. Is that the same person who got her firm or her company or her organization? They're the same ones who got these contracts that you're talking about in the audit?
Yes.
Yes.
I believe so. Again, I don't have the article in front of me that you're referring to. But I do know that it was a Minnesota firm that received the original $9,500 contract, and then two employees of that firm received the temporary employment contracts.
Yeah, and it was if it's Muscata Marketing and Communications, Kara Ellison, who worked for Great Plains Software, which of course was Governor Burgum's old company. So that's kind of interesting. I mean, in a lot of ways, I mean, your job has been to come into and be auditor for a government that is dominated by Republicans, right? I mean, there's just no other way to look at it other than small minorities in the legislature. Every statewide office in the executive branch, including yours, is held by Republicans. The legislature's majority Republicans. I mean, there's Republicans all over the place. You really can't do your job without having findings that are maybe uncomfortable for Republicans. I mean, you just really can't, can you?
Well, I would say that would be inappropriate if we considered politics. The auditors In the auditor's office, to remain objective, we follow the standards. We do our testing and our work, irregardless of politics or political affiliation. And so, regardless of Republican or Democrat, if something's not going to look right, if it's not going to fit within the laws and the requirements set forth, the auditing standards require us to produce findings, to make recommendations, and we are going to make that available. One of the things I'm focusing on is making sure that all of this information is communicated to the public, making it readily available. That's part of the transparency initiatives here within the auditor's office that I am focusing on. But politics doesn't play into any of this.
That's interesting, and you mentioning that specifically, the transparency. And one thing that your office is doing differently is you are releasing the audits right away, directly from your office. In the past, that didn't happen. In the past, and I'm not being critical of previous auditors, but in the past, although the completed audits were available and were made public in, I would say, maybe a sort of low-key way on the auditor's website, typically they didn't make headlines. They weren't really released to the media or anything until they were presented to the legislature as a committee that's essentially there to receive audits and to comment on audits, and it's called the Legislative Audit and Fiscal Review Committee. So basically their job is to review audits and be sort of the formal conduit between the auditor's office and the legislature, which is all fine. But typically, the audits in the past didn't make headlines until they were presented at that committee, and then the reporters of that committee would write about it, and then it would all be kind of filtered through the legislature's reaction to it. You're now releasing those audits directly to the public. That was a big bone of contention from the legislature. The legislators who wanted to remove some of your powers, the ones that I spoke to, said they didn't like that. They felt that you were sensationalizing things. And some even suggested that you were playing politics, that you were trying to sort of bolster your own resume with eyes towards running for maybe another office in the future. So their criticism, you're saying rightly, I think, that your office, is if it's negative findings for Republicans, then maybe those Republicans should do a better job. Politics doesn't matter. Partisan affiliation doesn't matter. Facts are the facts. That's what you're saying. They're saying, well, he's playing politics by sensationalizing these things. How do you respond to that criticism?
Well, what we're doing in the auditor's office is we are following auditing standards the way they're written. And in our auditing standards, which we follow the Yellow Book issued by the U.S. Comptroller General and the U.S. Government Accountability Office, they state that we need to inform those charged with governance. So that includes, leadership at clients. We inform legislators in our same email releases. We also inform the public. Every election has consequences. The electorate in this country is part of the governance model. That is what we the people means. And so we are, in fact, following the audit standards as they're written by making this information public, informing everybody. And what decision I've made is I now treat everybody the same. Everybody gets equal treatment, equal information at the same time. The legislature, the public, the media, we release it.
I will tell you, as a member of the media, I appreciate it. I like it. In fact, it was always a little. I remember the first time under your predecessor, Bob Peterson. I remember the first time I was trying to find an audit, and I found there was like an RSS feed or something on the old auditor's website, and I could get basically a ping when a new audit was posted. And the first time it happened, I was like, well, why isn't this making news? Not realizing, well, it was publicly available and it was posted. It just nobody really talked about it until it was presented to the legislature. So what you're doing, it's not really a change. It was always public. You're just sending out a press release and alerting to everybody saying, hey, this audit's done, and you're highlighting, probably some of the top level findings, which I think is fine, but others view that as you sensationalizing it and you maybe not being a neutral auditor, but instead trying to make headlines for yourself. That's not my argument. I don't believe that, but that's certainly the criticism I've heard of you from others.
And to me, as a public servant, I work for the citizens of North Dakota. I feel I have an obligation to make the information readily available to them. I actively reach out to the citizens. And by doing that, yes, we leverage all available technology. I feel like I have to go to them where they're at. So yes, we use press releases. Yes, we use social media, because that is where the citizens communicate. So all I'm doing is trying to leverage those resources to put the information in the hands of the people.
You're going to be asking North Dakota voters to put you in office for another 4 years. What do you tell them? What have you done to earn another 4 years?
Well, we've made the auditor's office more transparent, more accountable to them than ever before. While we've made great strides, I think there is still much to do to improve how we conduct our audits, to diversify our team, expand our capabilities, and I would look to or seek their approval to continue serving them for 4 more years.
What's still left to do? If you get another 4 years, what are you going to do with those 4 years?
Well, we are, again, continue to work on improving our overall audit operations. We're looking at diversifying our team, making sure that we've got the appropriate skill sets, disciplines.
Drill down on some of that. What does that mean?
So recently, we've actually hired a medical auditor, somebody who is qualified to look at medical coding, and we are looking at other skill sets, whether it be some engineering technicians. We have recently hired communication experts to help with writing and structure the audits. And there are several other things that we are, right now we're looking into. I'm not ready to disclose all of that, but again, seeking to continually diversify the team.
Well, that's certainly interesting. Well, anything else, Josh? Anything else you want to add before I let you go?
No, I appreciate the time, and I just thank you for helping get the information out there to the citizens of North Dakota. I think that's a very important piece of what the auditor's office is trying to accomplish, and an informed public that can be engaged and ask questions. That's the goal.
Yeah. Well, and I have thought, I guess, and again, as a member of the media, and I like this stuff. I appreciate the way you're doing it. I like it. I never saw why there was a problem, why we needed to be so fearful of the way these audits are released. They were always public record. If the public pays a little bit more attention to these audits, that's fine. And again, it's not like, if a state agency disagrees with your findings, they have room not only within the audit report itself. Anybody who's read one of these, there's always room for a response from the agencies, and they often disagree with your findings, and that's fine. But certainly, they all have public information officers. They all have, a lot of the departments have, statewide elected officials sitting at the top of them. If they disagree, they could certainly speak out, and we can have a nice debate about that, which in a lot of ways I think is important. Like, you highlight things, we can have a debate about whether or not it's right, and the whole system moves on. That's the way it's supposed to work, right?
Correct. And hopefully along the way, we are making improvements. We are better utilizing resources, improving services to the citizens. Our goal is, again, beyond making government accountable and transparent, but I want to make sure it's effective and responsive to the people it serves. And those discussions, that dialogue, that back and forth is how we make those improvements.
Josh, thanks for your time.
Thank you.